Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Real Estate Ventures podcast. Today, we have this awesome guest, Kenton with us, and he's a really, really awesome real estate investor that I'd really love to dive into his story. He started out in project engineer and developed and managed small strip malls and retail buildings. He has been involved in massive ground-up developments with his corporate jobs. During this time, he got his real estate broker's license and started Kenton Realty Group. In 2003, he made his first purchase, a 3-unit, and right now he's got 31 units, 8 buildings, and still going strong. Kenton, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Kenton, really glad to have you here. Why don't we start out by going back to the beginning, what you did before you got involved in real estate and what led you down this path?
So I started out in construction. I was a civil engineer doing kind of bigger construction projects. And originally my intent was actually to be run a construction company. And I kind of got a little disenchanted with the amount of time it was going to take to get to the top in that type of company, and started reading a little bit about real estate investing and got a little more interested in that, thinking I could take my own path and hopefully not have to work for anyone at some point. And so that's kind of where I got interested in it. I started the real estate brokerage company and started helping friends and family buy and sell their condos, houses, etc. And actually used that money to buy my first 3-flat. And that was kind of before house hacking was house hacking, but I lived in one unit and rented out the other ones. And then it kind of grew from there. I just continued doing real estate, for friends and family, building up my equity, and being ready so that when the downturn did happen, I started buying. So in 2010, I basically bought a building, my second building in 2010, and then I bought a building every 6 months for the next couple of years till I had 7 at the end of 2013. And then I bought another one after that in 2019, but I'm kind of just looking for the right deals that make sense. But it's been a great ride. And now I definitely make more money from my rental income than I do in my day job, which has been pretty phenomenal.
That's pretty awesome. So what essentially you were working nice corporate job. What in the first place got you motivated to look at real estate? Like, why real estate? Why not the stock market? Why not a different startup company? Like, why real estate?
Yeah, so I was in construction, so I definitely liked the construction side of things, and I liked physical, tangible assets. And the interesting thing is that I went to the University of Chicago and got my MBA in finance. So I did, and I still do invest in stocks and the stock market and everything else, but I kind of looked at that as that's one avenue, but I want to have another avenue with the deductions, depreciation, the tax advantages. And I did feel that I had a little bit of a competitive advantage. And after my first building in 2003, I kind of learned how to manage, how to do a lot of the work. So it really wasn't scary because I had the experience. And then in 2010, when the market just completely tanked, I knew there was huge opportunity. And so I started buying buildings that were in complete disrepair, which meant the banks wouldn't give me a loan on them. So what I would do is I had to get private money to buy them and fix them up so that I could get a bank loan on it. So what I actually ended up doing was getting a friend of mine who had some money, as well as my parents. And so one of them would give me the amount of money to buy the property. They would pay everything to buy the property, and then I would use all of my money in terms of lines of credit to do all the rehab work. And then 6 months later, as it was stabilized and it was seasoned, then I could refinance it and pay everyone back. So I did that on pretty much all of them, where I was buying them in the range of $100,000 to $200,000 buildings, 3 to 4 units. And so they would just lend 100 to 200,000, and then I would spend on average 200 to 300,000 of my own money fixing them up, and then refinance them, pull the money out, and pay everyone back.
Right, beautiful. And it sounds like what you did was the BRRRR strategy. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Bigger Pockets. They talk about that being, I think the steps are buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, and essentially, if that's done correctly, which you had your experience, you knew what you're doing as far as the rehab, and you're able to, pull all that equity back out. Essentially, that just means you can just repeat that process over and over again. And it's just it's a beautiful way of business that people use for smaller properties, as well as larger properties, to be able to pull your equity out and just do the same thing, roll that initial investment into larger and larger properties and more of them. So that it sounds like that's what you did, and that's a phenomenal strategy. They talk about it all the time on Bigger Pockets. I think Brandon Turner actually coined the name, as well as house hacking, which you mentioned before. But yeah, that's a really cool strategy. Something I'd like to point out is that it seems a little bit like you had an unfair advantage coming in. It seems like you had your experience from your 9-to-5, your corporate job in construction and developing and that sort of stuff. And for some of the listeners, I just want to point something out. Like, a lot of you may be thinking, well, oh, it must be awesome to be Kenton because he has that unfair advantage. He's got that experience and he already knew this stuff, and that's what led him to be successful in real estate. Like, easy for him, harder for us, right? But the truth is that I personally believe, and I've heard this many times before, that everybody has an unfair advantage somewhere. You may not have it in the same way that Kenton's got it. You may be living rent-free in your parents' house. You may have an uncle that's a real estate attorney. You may have a brother that has a lot of money that you can borrow or potentially partner up with. Everybody's got their unfair advantage. And if you don't know what it is yet, then I encourage you to just go out and find it, because everybody's got one and you can just start utilizing it and taking advantage of it. Kenton, I'm wondering, it sounds like you are self-managing these properties yourself. Can you talk a little bit about that, why you chose to self-manage and how that's working for you so far?
Yeah, so I do self-manage, and so I take care of all of the leasing, renting, etc. So I currently, my day job allows me to work from home, which gives me a lot more flexibility, so I can go do showings. So my wife and I both do showings, and then we do the leases and we do all the credit checks, et cetera, online, which makes it easy. But in the past, when my day job didn't allow me to do that, where I actually went into an office. So when I was doing that, I actually used apartment rental companies to do showings with lockboxes, et cetera. I mean, I would still do some showings on the weekends, but now that I work from home, I'm able to do all of them. So now, as far as more maintenance-y type things, I do some things, as well as I have a maintenance guy. Him and his wife actually live in the basement of one of my buildings. They did the work to actually make it habitable because it was just an empty basement at one point. So he basically, all the labor to do it, I paid for materials. Now he lives there rent-free, but he has to take care of any issues. So he'll take care of lockouts, say a water heater breaks, he'll go, he has credit cards for the companies, and so for each building, so he knows which credit card he'll go to, Home Depot, buy a new hot water heater, go install it. He'll do those type of things. But the biggest help is that for turnover. Most of my tenants are younger professionals or students, so most of them only stay a couple of years before their living situation just changes and they move across the country, or they want to change roommates, or they get married, or whatever. So I do have some that have stayed for 5-10 years, but a lot of them do change. So the hard part about that is your cost of turnovers. But since I have a maintenance person, the labor for the turnovers is basically baked in. It's free for me in a sense. And so all I got to do is pay for, say, paint and some cleaning supplies, and they turn over the unit. Him and his wife does the cleaning, he does all the repairs. So it's been really nice and easy. And that's also why I don't deal with security deposits. I just do move-in fees. And so I take the $500 non-refundable move-in fee at move-in. And if I have, say, 10 of those a year, I'm getting $5,000 in move-in fees, which is way more than I would have ever kept in security deposits. I don't do any walkthroughs at the end. I don't do, walkthroughs in the beginning. I don't do any of that. They just come in, my guys clean it up, get it ready. I leave a lockbox out back. The new tenant just gets the lockbox when they get there. They move in. If they have a problem, then I send the maintenance guy back to fix whatever the issues are, and we're good to go.
Right. That's pretty cool. So essentially, you got a person in-house taking care of a lot of the parts of property management that you would like to outsource, so to speak, and which really frees you up for the most part on the rest of the process, which is pretty cool. It sounds like you've been, doing a lot of deals and finding them in various different ways. What would you say has worked best for you as far as finding the deals, and where are you seeing the most potential?
I'm only in Chicago, so I can't really speak to other locations. And honestly, everything in Chicago has been on the MLS that I needed. And obviously I'm a broker, so I have access to the MLS, but even the auction websites, they'll post their properties on the MLS. So I have bought several at auction, and the one I bought in 2019 was actually from FDIC, but those were all posted on the MLS. And so I always see a lot of people kind of talking about how they get their deals out from wholesalers and off the MLS and off market. But I honestly haven't, other than the first property I bought, which was a for sale by owner, and I was driving by it, and that was right next to Wrigley Field. So that was kind of like a unique situation. But other than that, everything I bought was on the MLS. Of course, it's also nice that I get a commission as well. But that's been my experience.
Can we talk about that for a second? Because networking with other investors and just hearing from everyone, it seems like the MLS is almost impossible to find a deal. And it seems like everyone has access there, and it's being overbid and everything. But it sounds like you're finding opportunities that you're able to rehab and really turn into nice cash flowing properties. I'm wondering, like, what are you looking for in the MLS that's different than what most people are looking for? Or is it just like you feel like you got lucky, or like how is the MLS working so well for you? That's my question.
So back in 2010 to 2013, obviously there was just a ton of opportunity. But even then, I was looking for properties that other people might not want. So they were in really bad shape. I mean, for instance, I had one that I bought. It was a 4-unit building that had water in the basement. So the columns that were in the basement were wood, and they were wet, and they actually shrunk. So all of the floors above, they were all the joists and all the floors went down. So the floors were cracked, like all the doors were off. It was just a disaster. But I knew that it was a solid brick building, and all the joists were actually in pockets, which meant that the structure was fine. It was merely the center support. So I got it for next to nothing. It was like 110,000, I think, for a brick building. I just jacked up took everything out, all the way down to the joist, just jacked it up in the basement, and then redid everything. And it's an incredible building I have now, but a lot of people didn't want to touch it. The one that I got from the FDIC, they required cash, and they wanted an experienced investor that would pay cash and close. So they selected me, which was fine. I did a video on YouTube on it, all the craziness that was with that deal. And I've had a few other ones that were listed pretty high. Like there was one that was, I think it was listed over 200,000 and needed a ton of work. I ended up paying 105,000 for it because I just told the lady this is all it's worth, and she ended up agreeing to it. So I mean, I've just found a lot of the off-market ones aren't the best deals. I mean, people have told me that Chicago is different because the wholesaling rules here are different. So that might be also why there's just less wholesalers. And I hear a lot of the talk, but I'm from Chicago. We just haven't seen it as much here. Whereas I understand it may be different in other locations. So.
Right, got it. And so essentially the way I'm understanding it is, and I'd like the listeners to hear this point, is that essentially there are deals out there, and the more amateur you are, the less you know what you're looking for, and the less qualified buyer you are, the less opportunities you're going to see and you're going to find. The more tools you put in your toolbox, and the more tools that you make yourself comfortable with, and know and different ways of taking down properties, the more opportunity you're going to have to take down these deals that the other newbies or people that don't have the proper experience won't be able to take down. So essentially the more, and Kenton, your experience has helped you out tremendously with this, is that it's given you the knowledge and the power to take down these deals that other people would be afraid to take down. So that's something that I just want to encourage. Keep on educating yourself, everybody out there, because the more you know, the more deals you'll be able to make sense of. And really it's about creativity. It's about finding a way to create opportunity and raise that NOI, that net operating income on that deal, and create cash flow for yourself. But again, if you're not educating yourself, you're just not going to see that opportunity, and you'll just let 100 deals or 1,000 deals pass you by without going and taking advantage of them. So that's just a point I wanted to bring out. All right, Kenton, one more question before we move into the final four. All these properties, have you been taking them down yourself, or are you working with a team, with a partner? How's that working for you?
Yeah, I do everything myself. I haven't dealt with a partner probably the biggest reason is kind of the way I work is that I'm very fast and I want things done when I want them done. And I want to make the decisions when I want to make them. So I just know that I won't work well with a partner. So that's kind of my issue, I guess, is just personal. That I mean, because the day I close or the day I put something under contract, I'm already starting to get everything figured out. I mean, I don't do inspections on these properties. I bring contractors through and get everything ready so that the day we close, they're there demoing like that day. And I know exactly, everything's planned out. I have all the finishers. They know exactly what they're going to put in. But when I'm ready to refinance, I'm doing it. Like, it's not a discussion. It's like, I know exactly what to do, when to do it. And I'm not going to wait around to ask anyone else's approval or anything else. So that's kind of my issue with it, I guess, is that I do know what I'm doing and I can't allow myself to work with someone else who's going to potentially slow me up or, even try to discuss it. Because I mean, I'm not saying I'm always 100% right, but I want to know that I'm in complete control. I won't deal with the partners just for that reason. It's just me.
Got it. And essentially, the way what I take it out of that is that you have you have an actual direction that you want to be headed. Like, you know what you want, you know what your business plan is for the property, and you're just that crystal clear that you don't need somebody else to try to confuse you or try to turn you in a different direction. Like, it's pretty clear, and I think that's pretty good. That means you have a pretty nice and clear vision as far as like where you want to be with your rental properties. So kudos to that. All right, Kenton, let's move on to the final 4 questions of the show. These are more rapid, question answer type, and we'll move right into that segment. So all this going on, it seems like you're buying a bunch of rental properties. You're property managing. You're with the broker, the commercial real estate broker's license, all that stuff. What's your why? What's the reason for all this?
So my why is I love to travel, and that's pretty much all I want to do is travel and have the freedom to do that. So this, number one, allows me to do it now, even because my day job is really more work from home. So it does allow me to travel quite extensively, and obviously Corona's for now. But as soon as that's kind of wrapped up, the plan is to get back going again. And I mean, I like to go to Asia, I'd like to get there once a year, Europe at least once or twice a year. The Caribbean is all the time. My wife loves to go to Maui every winter to see the whales. And we like go to Colorado for hiking and skiing, but it's like, we just love going places all the time. And that's the why. I mean, it's just do this and then hopefully not have to work for anyone in the not too distant future so my kids can get into college and that kind of thing. But otherwise, that's the plan.
Cool. Really nice. What's your favorite book?
I love the Freakonomics books. They're usually fairly shorter, but they're really cool. I love the data. I love that it's not necessarily popular. It's just, here's what the data tells you the story. So I think those are really cool books.
Nice. What advice would you give someone just starting out in real estate?
So my best advice is really, number one, trust yourself. Ask questions to anyone and everyone, because you can learn from people, even if it's what not to do, but you can learn from just about anyone. And think about adding value, because at the end of the day, if you're not adding value to whatever you're doing, that's how you're going to make money, is when you add value. And not just to your real estate, but also to your personal relationships. So in anything you're doing, if you're adding value, that's really how you're going to make things better for yourself and the people around you and grow. And, that's my best advice, I guess.
Got it. And I think both of those are pretty much connected, like the educating yourself and the adding value. You're not going to be able to add value unless you educate yourself, unless you have some other, built-in way of adding value. But for the most part, the more you educate yourself, the more you learn, the more you can share, the more you can help others, and then the more value you're adding, which will help you get into that first deal quicker. What's your favorite hobby?
So I've been doing YouTube videos. I really love talking real estate, discussing it, learning from other people. Even though I've been doing this my entire career, I'm still learning things periodically. So, it's great. I like to learn and I love to teach and engage with people, other than also traveling. So traveling and YouTube are my 2 main things right now.
Cool. And, I just want to point out to all the listeners, like, This is what we, are constantly talking about when we talk about, passive income and cash flow real estate. Kenton has been able to, increase, his amounts of traveling and vacations and his quality of life with his wife and his family. The reason really is because of real estate. It's not because of his 9 to 5. It's because of the passive income that he's getting on the side because of the portfolio that he's built up. And essentially, I like what you did before, what you mentioned before. You have that one in-house maintenance guy that essentially can, take a lot of the burden and the day-to-day stuff off of your tasks, which essentially allows you to be more free and allow you to travel more and enjoy life more. And that's really what it's all about. We all have, there's a lot more that we want to do in life than just, work our 9 to 5s. And, for many people, real estate is a really, really nice avenue to be able to go ahead and achieve it. And Kenton is a perfect example of somebody doing that. So just wanted to point that out one more time. Kenton, where can people reach you if they want to reach out to you, have any questions or any other real estate inquiries?
Well, the best way is on all social media and YouTube. I'm under Kenton Knows. So it's Kenton and then Knows, Knows. And you can reach me on any of those options. But I've got a lot of my videos just tell exactly what I do and how I do it. And I just keep trying to educate everyone and teach them what I'm doing.
Thank you very much. And you're doing a great job at that. I actually watched some of your videos on YouTube and you're very clear. Great for beginners looking to get involved and learning, the ABCs of real estate, just learning the basic processes and procedures. Definitely check out his YouTube channel. A lot of great content on there. So Kenton, thank you very much. This has been amazing. You've shared so much value and I love your story. I hope the listeners can take away, for a lot of the golden nuggets that you've shared here today, and hope to have you back sometime soon. This was great.